It's a great pleasure for me to present this 1993 Brownlow medal to a great champion, a magnificent footballer, great skills in the game, Gavin Wanganeen.
Well, 300 games, a Brownlow medal, 2 premierships, an incredible career. Gavin Wanganeen, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, thanks.
Well, you're the Essendon Football Club official legend for round 1. How does that feel? Is it a big honour for you?
Yeah, it's a huge honour to come back to the club and to be recognised at this great club where I've had, I had 6 wonderful years playing at this great club and grew from a young man young boy into a young man. That stage where you experience things for the first time in your life, and to play in the Baby Bombers, side, win that premiership in '93 was special, and it was privileged to have had a great career at Essendon.
You're in good nick, mate. Looks like you could still be playing.
No, not quite. No, not quite.
I think people look at the careers of guys who play for a length of time at more than one club, and the length of their career as a whole often sneaks up on them. And that's what I find with you. So 6 years at Essendon, 10 years at Port, 16 seasons in the Caper, 300 games. I mean, you started young. Yeah,
when you look back on it, as you get older, you see, the 1-6, 16 years next to your name and 300 games, you think, oh yeah, that's a lot of footy. So I was quite privileged and to have been able to play for that long, at 2 great clubs, and like I said, my time at the Mighty Bombers was, there are times I'll never forget and I'll take with me. So special to be back here. And when I come to Melbourne, all the Essendon supporters that come up to me and still mention, oh, you're my favourite player, blah blah blah, and loved you, all this stuff. It really does make you feel really proud to have that connection to the Mighty Bombers.
Say another 10, 20 years down the track, do you think people will remember you predominantly as a Port player or an Essendon player, or how do you think they'll see it?
Well, I think one club will recognise me as theirs and the other club will recognise me as theirs, and I think that's a good position to be in.
Yeah.
Very privileged to have had great careers at both clubs, significant careers. So I'm extremely proud of that fact, and there's always red and black blood in me. I just feels like not too long ago that I rocked up to Windy Hill to do my first pre-season as a 17-year-old. I think Hurdy and myself, we did our first pre-season together back many years ago.
Yeah.
So you remember those days? They're special.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, arriving in a new, not only a new club, but a new state at the age of 17. Of course, you'd played in a Sandful premiership with Port Adelaide just before you came here. So I guess you'd played amongst men and you'd grown up fairly fast, but still coming to a different state and the elite competition. 17, you must have been crapping yourself, really.
Yeah, I was quite young, like you said. I played in the grand final the year before as a young teenager, 16, 17, and rocking up here to Melbourne in the big league, but I'd already played with men, so and I was quite ambitious as a young fellow and had high standards and expectations. So, and was quite confident in my own ability, and I just wanted to get to the big league as quick as possible and play well in the big league as quick as possible, and I didn't see age as a barrier, although if you looked at me I looked very slight, the frame was a lot thinner. So first year, it was good to get that first year out the way, playing with men here in the AFL, because physically it was testing.
Justin Madden's kick up towards full forward, no one at home. And again, it's Wanganeen and Danaher.
Sandy's terrific, this kid.
Been fantastic.
Who were you in an on-field sense? Did you have particular players who were mentors to you, sort of took you under their wing a bit?
Well, I think Michael Long took me under his wing.
Yeah.
Having that common Indigenous background, Aboriginal background, which was really special because I felt at home straight away when Michael was at Essendon, same as Derek Kickett. He was at Essendon, so. As a young fella, I just wanted to do well really quickly. I just wanted to go for it, and my inspiration, I suppose, came from just watching successful people and players. I mean, Gary Ablett Senior was someone I looked at and watched, and I guess in a way he inspired me to play AFL. But when you come to a great club like Essendon, you look on the wall, you see, you know, the back-to-back, you know, premiership spread everywhere. You think, well, I want to play in a premiership like these guys. You know?
Let's talk about 93, because it was a remarkable year, not only for Essendon but for football, really. I think a lot of people, I'm certainly one of them, think 93 was perhaps the greatest season of football ever played. It was just, you had, you know, Ablett, as you mentioned, you had Modry, you had Dunstall, you had Lockett. This seemed to sort of tie in with, obviously, you winning the Brownlow, but your shift to the back pocket. Now, you'd played a variety of positions, but tell us how that shift to the back pocket came about and why you immediately slotted in there so comfortably.
Yeah, well, I played all my juniors as a midfielder and half forward. So I came to Essendon, I think my first few games were as a half forward, and you know, a little bit in the midfield. I mean, a few pre-season games, Sheed threw me into the centre for a quarter here and there, see what I had. So I mean, I love playing the midfield. But then when the season in 91 started, I started on a half forward flank, and I think it was, so I got through that year. I played a little bit of midfield. I remember playing at Moorabbin. We played down there in 91 and we beat St Kilda.
Yeah.
They had Lockett back in those days, and Nicky Winmar and Harvey, you know, running amok, but we beat them down there. It was a full house at Moorabbin, I remember that distinctively. Then 92 came around, so it was around about round 3 or 4 in 92. The runner came out to me and said, "Gavin, go into the back line." And for some reason, I think it was because Sheeds wanted to just get me maybe either out of play or into the play, because the attention I was copping from the defenders, bigger, stronger bodied men who were bullying me around a bit, I suppose, in a way. He wanted to protect me from that, and thought, yeah, I'll get him at the other end, or he does the minding. And it just said, the message was, go play that down there. If the ball comes, play on this guy. If the ball comes near you and your opponent, just beat him to the ball, get it, and run it back the other way. Played that role, and when the ball came down, I made sure I got him out the way, or I beat him to the footy and ran back, took a bounce, run down, and just played attacking brand. I thought, well, I'm a young fella, I just want to take him on, so I thought I'd get the ball in my hand and catch me if you can. That was the mindset I had.
Well, you certainly took his advice. There's 3 things from 93 that you did really stick in people's minds, I think. 2 incredibly courageous marks running with a flight. I think one against West Coast and one against Geelong in that incredible game where Ablett kicked 14 and Salmon kicked 10. And the other one people remember is probably the greatest point in the history of the game in the grand final, mate. If you had to kick that, we'd still be talking about it.
Oh, he drops it, but away goes Wanganeen, the 1993 Brownlow medalist. It goes out to half-back. It bounces beautifully for Long. Long, come and get me, Millimhanner, he says. But Wanganeen's run brilliantly from the back pocket, and his disposal not quite for Hurd. Christou falls over. Hurd, handball, Wanganeen will kick a goal. Have a look at this. It bounces inaccurately. Maybe that could have been the play of the decade.
I'm yet to live that down. It's just play it over and over in my head every time I see it, and then I just got to quickly shut it off and say, no, that's done and dusted, Gavin. Don't be so stupid. You can never make up for that. But I sort of try to just trickle it along the ground, and I'm thinking, why don't I just run around that big log? I could have just ran around him and kicked it over, just dribbled it over the goal line. It would have been a pretty good goal. But anyway, it wasn't a B.
Well, tell us about the Brownlow medal too, because you know, the attention that's focused on a Brownlow medal winner, you know, it's just enormous. Was that a life-changing thing for you? Did you find you were sort of catapulted into another level of stardom, and that meant that your lifestyle changed, or how people perceived you changed?
Yeah, and possibly, yeah. I mean, you have that tag on you as a Brownlow medalist. That does a lot of things for you, you know, recognition-wise and publicity-wise and all that. But I think leading into that, I mean, I think during the 93 season, I had a pretty good year as a young fella coming through, making my name and playing some really good footy. And being a big footy club, huge supporter base, that spread quite quickly. So there was a fair bit of hype around me because of that. So I think in a way it was probably already there because of '93.
Yeah.
The season it was. So it's just one of those things, and I suppose that enhanced it a bit as well.
Got to ask you about the decision to leave Essendon. Now, once it became clear Port Adelaide were coming into the competition, it was always a chance to happen. How long was that process in evolving? Both them approaching you thinking about it, deciding to leave, and how difficult was that decision to make, or was it easy just to say, I've had a good time here, I want to go home?
No, it definitely wasn't an easy decision. It was so tough because I suppose the answer to your first bit of that question was Port Adelaide knew they were probably coming into competition 12 months prior.
Yeah.
So I think it might have been somewhere during the year that my manager had been contacted to say, look, Port are coming in. The unlucky thing for Essendon was the fact that I was coming out of contract that year.
Yeah.
So Port were only able to take uncontracted players. So if the administrators had signed me up the previous year or 2 years for a longer term contract, I never would have paid for Port Adelaide. But anyway, it wasn't to be. So it's just one of those things. But I was a young fellow. I was 23 years of age, still quite young. But I'd played 127 games with the Mighty Bombers, and played in the Premiership. It was hard. I just felt like I was letting people down, and it was a tough decision. It really was. I had the pull from home. I played all my junior footy with Port Adelaide Magpies from a 13-year-old all the way through the juniors up to reserves and league football.
Yeah.
There, so I had the family, the ties of Port Adelaide, the South Australian pool as well, being a South Australian. So it was a tough decision. It really was, and I forever reminded of it when I come back to Melbourne. But in a good way.
There was no ill will towards it, really, was there?
There was no ill. No, I mean, jokingly, if the members say, I love you, Bomber, I was spewing when you went back to Port. And, but we loved you, you're my favourite. And I loved that come back to Melbourne, and I loved the Bomber supporters, and they've always just been so good to me, Australia-wide, there's lots of Bomber supporters in Adelaide, and up in Darwin and Western Australia, and, big club like that. So I'm really proud of my history here at this great club.
Port, they made finals in only their third season. They had a few ups and downs before achieving the ultimate. How were you feeling about that decision around the end of 2000, when Essendon just won another flag, lost one game all season? Port, I think that year really struggled. Was there a moment where you thought, what have I done? Or? Yeah,
definitely. I remember watching the 2000 grand final. I thought to myself, look, I've missed out on that. If I don't play in a winning premiership with Port, my decision would have been the wrong one. So, I was still thinking about the Bombers even, when I wasn't playing for them. So, that was a sad day personally for me because I wasn't here to play in that final with them. But it was funny. I'm fortunate to play in two premierships with two great clubs.
So you whack on the game, the old '93 granny from time to time.
I haven't watched it for a while, but I'm going to have to, watch it with my kids. I think I haven't even watched the Port one.
Really?
For some reason I don't know. Just never.
You played just as an aside. You played very well in both those games too, didn't you?
Yeah, I was happy with my performances in both. So with the Bombers, I kicked the last goal.
Yeah, that's right.
Longy kicked it to me.
That's right.
And I loved kicking that last goal.
And it was a year of Indigenous people that year too.
Yeah, that's right. It was a big year for the Aboriginal population, celebrating Indigenous history there. So it was good to kick that last goal. And
to half forward, Wanganeen.
You're fortunate when you're playing grand finals. They're very hard to come by. I mean, with this great club, it's been 17 years.
I know. A lot of people feeling that throughout.
18. So, but look there, I'm sure I won't be too far away.
And now he wants to cap it off with a goal. And he has.
Well, thanks for joining us, Gavin. It's been a fantastic career, a real honour for you to be official legend at Essendon's first home game, and I think people always rapt to catch up with you. And thanks for what you did for the Essendon Footy Club.
Yeah, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be back in Bomberland and to be recognised at this great club, and it'll always be special to me, the Bombers. So yeah, thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.